everything's coming up greener.
Here's Harold Matthews. He is
the Garden Doctor. The Garden Doctor.
Hello and welcome to the Garden Doctor Show. Boy, it felt fantastic outside today, and this rain that we just got was absolutely fabulous.
Nice
it
rain.
came just at the right time. We got a good amount, and then it waited a day or two, and we got another good drink. And that's
not too much, like in Colorado.
Oh
Good.
my gosh, yeah. We live right on the river, so too much is a real bad thing for us. Now, we did have a drought, though. We did experience a drought, and we are still low on the water table. So don't be fooled into complacency completely. You want to make sure that if you have any new trees, any plants that have only been in for a year or two, or that were planted especially this season, that they are watered well and evenly, and that especially going into the winter, that they don't go into the winter dry. If they do, then you could have all kinds of problems. Now, I want to introduce you to this new lady sitting to my right here.
What are you talking about?
Well, I picked her up, out on the street out here. Good looking lady. Yeah, you see the glasses and everything here.
Oh, yes, my new addition.
This is a new touch.
Oh, yes.
See, I lost my hair. She gained another.
Yes, I did.
And now she recognizes me. There for a while, she would go up and start talking to strange men, and I was getting a little concerned.
Well, I had no idea actually how much I was not seeing till I had the first eye exam ever in my entire life, and discovered I need bifocals. So here I am, have glasses, and I am amazed at what I can see. Truly, the first 3 days were, this is amazing.
A good friend of ours over at the new optometrist here in town.
There's some great doctors in town here, no doubt.
Oh, yeah, great optometrist.
But Andrew Yaryan, he's the doctor I went to, and they helped me out. They were wonderful over there and did me a great job.
And that was her first experience. So she, she didn't want to go for, I don't need to. I don't need to. She kept running into walls. It was very embarrassing.
I was in denial, have been for a long time.
But Andrew said, I know I can make you see better.
Yes.
And he wasn't kidding.
He was not kidding. And he was right, and he delivered. So thank you very much, Dr. Yaryan.
And now with these glasses, she can see things. So I'm sending her out to do a lot of the. Hey, watch that. Get away from me. That's because my wife just didn't clean it right.
Oh, is that what it is?
Sending her out to look at a lot of the detail that's in the trees and the leaves and so forth that she missed before, and maybe she can do some of my work. We got a horrendous amount of communication, mail, email.
Yes, we did.
Phone call, whatever, in regard to trees,
That seemed to be the topic of the month. It really was.
It was overwhelming. And so we tried to consolidate, and we're going to try to present you with some information about trees, particularly
quite a bit of it.
Yeah, the most important thing I want to get across to everyone is if you are going to purchase a tree, if there is a tree in your future, whether it be for you or for someone else, the most important thing is that you can't just put a tree in the ground. You have to provide for its care and maintenance. It would be like giving someone a pet and them not providing for care and maintenance. You have to take care of these trees.
Well, let's start with the basics. Let's talk about, first of all, why do we need trees?
Well, that's a good place to start.
Why we need them?
They of course clean the air. They buffer the poisons and the toxins, take them out of the air for us. They provide us with shade not only for yourself, but shade for your lawn. You'll notice that the yards that have trees that are strategically located, not too much shade, but just enough shade, they always have stronger, greener grass, healthier looking lawns, because a lawn that is provided with some shade doesn't get into the drought stress. They don't get the sunburn and so
they
forth.
Certainly keep our homes cooler in the summertime.
They keep the home
that's
cooler.
For sure.
They're a windbreak. They provide
I've seen
us with
rows
protection.
of certain types of trees trees or shrubs that I assumed were placed there on purpose as a windbreak.
Yeah, if they're
Whole row of them?
on the right side of the house or windbreak, you can also use them in New England. They're used a lot. Around here, we don't think of it as much, but for snow drift
Yes.
placement, you really relocate where the drift is going to
That's
fall.
amazing how that works.
By placing your shrubs in a certain way so that it won't fall on your driveway or your lawn or against your house or wherever it is you want to prevent it. And if you have the proper location of trees and their placement is appropriate, then you can actually direct where this drift is going. Goes over and lands on the neighbor's house.
Well, now, as I
Yeah.
learned quite a bit studying geology and this type of thing, erosion, water pollution, that also one of the big benefits is the root structure.
Erosion.
Right, to keep your fields and what have you, soil from eroding into the river.
You just need to walk down along the riverbank and you can see that the trees are desperately holding on to whatever
sure
soil
are.
is left there. Very poor practice in Indiana and throughout most of the Midwest, where we plow right up to the edge of the
Well, I guess the problems
river.
too,
That's just utter
with the
nonsense.
mudslides they've had out west in California, all the shrubs burn away, so there was no root structure.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then when it rained,
and then the perfect
mudslides.
storm. Now, erosion control is another major thing, and then of course trees are renewable resources. We use them for wood, for burning. In New England they're used for everything.
firewood, heat, sure.
They provide electricity. They're, of course, used in the lumber industry and in the firewood business. There's not a branch, brush, or leaf on a tree that goes to waste in New
Yeah, those
England.
biomass energy plants. I mean, what is it? They chew it up and
Yeah, grind it up into mulch and then squeeze the water out of it and then run it through and create electricity. Then they also pelletize it, grind it up,
That's
make
amazing.
pellets out of it, and the pellets, all the moisture is squeezed out of them, and when it burns, it's a much more efficient thing. So we do need trees, and then we like them. We actually love them because of what they look like. The benefit that we get from just having a tree, I hug trees all the time. So, and I
with
don't
your
care for
blossom, the foliage.
yeah,
you know.
everything about a tree is warm and friendly. So there are 100,000 reasons for getting a tree and for planting a tree, but we have to be very careful about selecting the right tree for the right location, because if you make a mistake and put the wrong tree in the wrong location, you could have a disaster on your hands. One of the biggest problems that you could have, and it happens quite often, is people will get little trees for, somebody will give them a spruce, blue spruce, or a pine, or a hemlock, an evergreen, around the holidays, and they'll put little decorations on it, and then they'll set it right against their foundation.
Too close.
And I had a lady that had a beautiful row of blue spruces across the front of her house, and she had planted them there. I'm going to move them. Yes, okay. And then
Sooner or later, but
5 years later, she was really going to move them because now they're just gorgeous. And then 25 years later, when they did remove the trees, they also removed the front foundation of her house, and they dislocated the gas line, and there was
That's
a
a mess.
major it could have been potentially very explosive.
destroyed the whole house. Sure.
Yeah, it could have blown up the whole neighborhood.
One of the questions, several times asked over, is there a best, and I'll ask you, is there a best time of the year to select and plant a tree?
Selection of tree is not the same time that you plant a tree.
Okay.
I much prefer to go select trees for people in the late summer and early fall. I want to see that tree in its best condition that it can be, and that is late summer and early fall.
So in full foliage, full bloom, full whatever
Or
you
going
want to
into
see
its
that.
fall colors. What I
Okay.
want to see is it uniform? Is the color change uniform? Is it good strong color in the greens if it's a green leaf tree? And when it goes into its fall color, is it a good strong color in the fall?
Gotcha.
And these two things will tell me if this tree is strong all over, because it's not uncommon for a tree to turn one limb or one part of the tree to turn their fall colors early.
Yes, you've pointed that out to me before, actually. Now, what is it that is causing that would cause one limb or part of a tree to go into fall color?
The tree is shutting that down for a reason, and normally that reason is there's something lacking. There's a weakness. There's a lack of root structure to
Okay.
feed that particular part. Maybe there's an injury, a disease. There's something in there that you can't see in that root ball, perhaps, that's masked and covered up by the burlap or the pot that it's in, that you just can't identify what the problem is. But there is a problem, so that is a tree that I would definitely avoid. When I'm looking for a tree at a nursery, I check the trunk very, very carefully. I kind of like to know, where was this tree grown? So if I can pick it in the nursery, it makes a difference, because if the tree was grown in a very thick environment where the sun could not penetrate to the trunk, then I want to make very sure that I protect that trunk. It will blister. When you get it out and you plant it in your yard, there's no protection around it anywhere.
Right.
And when the sun reflects, that particular side of the tree that is on the south it can just split wide open. You can have some major issues there where the temperature goes up, and then when the sun goes down, it drops suddenly and it'll freeze and bust. And so you want to wrap the tree, and I do this anyway. On new trees, I like to wrap them for about 3 years. Then make sure that you call in. We are live. At the moment, we are.
We're still live.
We're still
and
live.
alive.
And
Gotcha.
so we want to make sure that you call in on that number, 825-3245. I just put that right
You
into
had
memory.
no idea. You
That was
saw it
right
on
up
the
here.
screen. He cannot
Pulled it right
remember
up
a
from
phone
memory
number.
like that.
Not at all.
Just absolutely amazing. Okay, so the other thing, when you're selecting a tree, you check the trunk out very good and check the root structure. People don't even look at the roots.
How can you see the roots?
Well, if you feel around and you find that roots were severed that were quite large, they might have undersized the ball. And that sometimes happens. You know, the nursery has got a certain size tree digger or something, and they're going through and they're digging with, and they don't want to go to a larger size.
So is that a
because of the
deal
weight and so
breaker,
forth.
or is
Yeah,
that pretty
for me
normal?
it is.
Okay.
No, if they have undersized the ball and I get too big of roots, I'm going to pass on that. I would rather have a
right.
smaller tree that has a good root
better-
structure,
right.
because that's where you got to start from.
Gotcha.
You're going to see in some of the videos or the pictures that I'm going to show you here in a little bit that we were going to show you, where trees were girdled by their own roots. They were strangled by their own roots. This is so very common, and it happens because plants are grown in a container for a period of time. Even balled and burlap trees may have started off in a pot.
Okay,
And then they may have
sure.
been moved from a pot into the ground. And we have mentioned this on the show before, but the root structure in that pot goes out, hits the side of the pot, turns,
Goes around and
360,
around.
goes around and around and around and around.
I'm sure everybody's gotten a plant from Walmart and seen that round and around and around. And
It happens everywhere.
Yep.
And so when you take a tree, when you find a tree to buy, try not to buy one where the roots are already wrapped around. If you do, and
have to
and
slice
it's a
them,
larger tree, then you have to slice them. You're
talked
going
about
to
that.
resist it doing that, but you really have to do that. Now, you can unwrap them sometimes. I have been successful. If they're good and pliable roots, I have been able to unwrap them. But let me tell you, they're gonna want to spring right back if you don't dig the hole big enough and actually pin them to stay.
so they basically
outside.
have memory of
They have root
growing in
memory,
that circle.
and this is it. They're going to go around the circle. They're going to strangle themselves, and eventually that tree will underproduce what it was capable of. It will
just won't be 100%.
Oh, it could be. It may kill itself in 5 years. It may not be able to get the water or the nutrients that it needs. It'll have a weak root structure. It'll have a weak spot right at the base of the tree, and you get a heavy wind, they'll snap right off, right at the
Okay.
roots.
Okay,
So,
you've
you wanna-
selected your tree.
Yeah, be very careful when you're selecting a tree. Most important, though, do research. This is the spot I want to put the tree, right here.
Actually, we have a whole bunch of notes about the right and wrong tree. But after you've selected your tree, okay, when is the best time to actually plant a tree?
I like to plant it when it's in its dormant state, which is in the late fall or the as soon as the leaves have fallen
So you
off.
go look at the tree when it's in its glory, decide what you want, but you go actually
it.
to purchase that tree, to take it home and
I
plant
purchase it right then.
Okay.
Tag the tree, purchase it. Then leaves fall off, deciduous. I do not like to transport trees when they're in full foliage. And if you do, you want to spray the foliage with a product called Wilt Proof. There's a
Because
couple
it really
other things on the
whips them
market.
up pretty bad,
Oh, yeah,
doesn't
you're
it?
going 50, 60 miles an hour down the road. That's like a flat line 60-mile-an-hour wind hitting this tree.
Yeah,
You know,
it's taking all
that's-
this abuse on
Oh
this
my
foliage
gosh,
it
yeah,
has to
it
support.
just shreds
so-
most of the foliage.
Okay.
Now you can help by enclosing it in the wind barriers that we use, burlap, and there's other. But spray it with wilt proof. You cut down on it, and if it's later in the fall and the leaves have already turned, it doesn't matter if the leaves blow off. They're going to fall off anyway. So they've already gone dormant. So
Now, when you plant this tree, now I
Yep.
know we've talked about this before, is water, water, water. You kind of position it, you mud it in some. And
dig the hole. Make sure that the hole is a quarter bigger than the ball minimum. I like to go have a good foot around there. We are live, so we want to go straight to the callers anytime
right.
they come in.
You sure do.
We have a caller on the line. You're on the air with Mr. and Mrs. Garden Doctor. What can we do for you?
Hi, yes. I've got a baby maple tree growing right up next to my house. Mm-hmm. It's about 3 foot tall, and I'm not sure how to get rid of it, or if I can transplant it and move it somewhere else, will it grow?
It probably will grow, but the chances of it being a quality maple tree are pretty slim. It's probably a soft maple. They tend to have tremendous amounts of seed pod, and they can be a real nuisance. Now, if you have a very large yard and you want to provide yourself with another tree, get it away from the house, because soft maple also are susceptible to wind damage and ice damage, and they're just not a quality tree. However, if I've got 4 or 5 of them in a group, that's how they're supposed to grow. So if you've got a large yard where you can move this tree out, chances are you're going to get more, because if you have 1 or 2 coming up in your flower bed, you're going to have more of them. Now, can you move it? That would be determined by how large the diameter is and which way the root structure went from where it is. I would take a hose and wet the ground real good around it. I'm assuming it's about your thumb size or a little bigger?
Yeah.
Okay. Wet the ground around it, get it saturated with water, grab a hold of the base of the trunk and just wiggle it, pull, 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 and see if you can pull the thing up out of the ground bare root.
Oh, okay.
It is very possible that is the best way. Now, if it won't come budge loose that way, take a spade, go about 8 inches away from it, work it down into the soil, the muddy soil, and try to kind of break that side loose. Go over on the other side, do the same, and then pull again. Or have one dig and the other one pull.
Yeah, you need help for that.
But you can go out in the woods in the spring of the year and pull most of the trees that you want to that are thumb size right up out of the ground when they're good and saturated.
Okay. Also, I have like a mulberry, and I really want to just get rid of it. How do I get rid of those things? They just pop up alongside of my house all the time.
They're a mole plant?
Mulberry?
Oh, mulberry trees.
Mulberries,
Oh, mulberries.
yeah.
Oh, yes,
It's more
yes.
of a bush, and it's a pain and a nuisance. And I've been just taking my hedge clippers and cutting it back each year.
Yeah.
And then it just keeps coming up.
And the trunk keeps getting bigger and bigger and
Yes,
bigger.
exactly.
Yeah. Do you have access to a drill?
Maybe like
Okay.
a
Just
screwdriver drill.
Yeah, screwdriver drill, just one of those that you can put a little bit in. Cut
Oh, okay.
Cut that thing off. Drill some holes in it, in the trunk of it, which is probably about this big or so. Drill some after you've cut it off. Drill some holes in the trunk and pour in enough to fill those holes with a product called Brush Killer. You can buy it at just about any store. And it will go down systemically and kill the root structure out so that you won't have to dig that out, because mulberry roots are a bear. You could hook a truck onto there and it would break the truck. So it's much easier to just cut it off, drill a couple of holes in it,
And poison the sucker.
poison it out. Yeah, don't
Okay.
pour too much though. Just fill it.
Yeah, you
2
don't
or
want
3
it
holes.
spilling out all over and leaking onto everything else. So.
If you can drill 2 holes, fill those. If you can drill 3, whatever it allows you to drill, and that is the easiest way to get rid of it. It really is.
Okay, what was it called?
Brush killer.
Brush killer.
Yep, it
Okay.
says this right on the bottle
Yeah,
too.
it's-
Ortho or Bear, whatever products they have at the big stores.
And there are assaults will sometimes do it, but just the brush killer is not very expensive.
Stuff works.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, great.
Keep that
Thank
away
you.
from children because anything that is a chemical really should be in a locked case. And also wear gloves. I don't like products.
I'm messing with those chemicals,
I
but
suffer
sometimes
from
I have
Agent
to.
sure.
Orange, and believe me, the chemicals can be they're great if they're used properly.
And
but
often it's the only choice. But
yeah. Anything else we can do for you?
Nope, that about answers it.
Well,
thank you.
I appreciate your call very
Thank you.
much.
Okay, bye.
bye.
Thank you. Okay, so I think we've got another caller, but we're going to assume that we need to answer the rest of this. The amount of questions that came in, there was no way we could get them all on. So
I made kind of a list here that you kind of made for me, and I made a title for
Yeah.
it. The most common mistakes people make with trees. So let's see, what have you got there?
well, it's putting the wrong plant in the wrong place. We
Wrong
do have a
plant.
caller.
All right. Well, we'll get right back to that.
Oh, before we forget about it though, we're going to have to show this apple pie.
Oh,
right
we
after this
will.
caller.
Don't worry.
Listen,
We'll get to
you're
that.
on the air with Mr. and Mrs. Garden Doctor.
Hi
How
there.
can we help you?
Hey, Harold,
Hey, how you doing?
Michelle.
Hello.
Hey, the glasses do you well.
I can see better.
And now just turn to your left, and doesn't that face look a lot better with some stuff on it?
Whoa! Oh my
That left.
goodness! Wow! I just
Better,
got a
did
good
you
look
say?
at-
You did say better, right?
Yes, much better. Oh my
Look better.
goodness! I wear a beard myself. I wear a beard myself, and I know I'd never want to shave it off.
There you go. There you
I'm
go.
sorry, but I do have a question about my dear wife brought home a pine tree, and it's deformed.
Uh-huh.
We buried it and got it going,
Yeah.
and now it's deformed on one side. Can I just clip that off, or
By deformed, do you mean that
one side's bigger than the other?
Okay, when you prune a evergreen, especially a pine, you want to do a process called candling. Now, candling is where you go into the fork. Each branch grows out, and then there's
Right.
a center leader that comes out, and then another grows out, then another center leader. Go back in the crotch of that center leader and prune the center leader only, and allow those on either side to be unpruned. Now, there are occasions where the center one gets pruned, and then the ones that come out, they also have centers. They can get pruned, but you don't want to just shear it like you would a shrub, because it will cause it to be deformed unless you're growing it for a Christmas tree. Now, I prefer to candle prune, especially a white pine, because by doing that, you cause them to grow denser, and you can balance them out. You won't prune the side that's weak, and you prune heavy the side that's strong, and then
So
next
just
year,
prune up one side of it, and then it maybe catch up the next year, kind of thing.
right? but
Maybe 2 years, because this thing is really deformed.
It has character.
How
It's
did-
not deformed.
Yeah, it's
That's right.
Charlie Brown. Charlie
And
Brown.
another thing, you guys,
Yep.
to kill them, the mulberry, drill the hose and buy the branch stuff that you was talking about.
Right.
I use bleach.
Will bleach work?
It kills it right dead. When you got a tree growing in your fence, and it's growing, you know how they grow through your fence.
Yeah, yeah.
You get it all cleared off, and then drill some holes and pour bleach in there. In
No
2
kidding.
years, you can just break it apart.
That I had heard that, but I have not
I'd
tested
never heard
it.
that
I
before.
like using as a minimal.
That seems less offensive
strength
than
of
a
chemical.
chemical
Yeah.
type thing. I mean, it's bleach.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like killing if you can kill the weeds in your walkway with hot water. It's extremely
Right.
effective. But you know, you got to run back and forth with the teapot. With
I
the hot
might be
water.
more dangerous
you
with the
learned
hot
that from
water.
the Indians, didn't you?
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
All right, thanks.
Thank you
guys.
very much for your
Thank
call. We
you.
appreciate it very much. I don't know if you all can see this.
Okay,
This
it's
is my
apple
wife's pie.
season. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. It says carrot. Now it might slip right out of that glass
Hey, I
pan,
got
and I'll
it, I
kill
got
you.
it.
TV3. Can you see that?
Says T. Yes, I can see it. Very
okay.
clear. Oh, look at that.
TV3. Look at that apple
TV3.
pie.
She's misspelled 3, but that's all right.
Jerk. I can't believe you just said that. I actually picked those apples myself off of our tree because
Yes, you
it
did.
is fall. It is apple season. Yeah,
One of the
the greatest
trees
things. Go to
that
the orchard.
she did not back over, and
Hey,
probably won't
you know
now that
what?
she has glasses.
That's not even funny.
Well, you backed over a tree. I'm sorry.
So what? That was
You
a long
didn't have
time
glasses,
ago.
that's why.
I know. I could see a tree in the left rear view mirror. I could see the other one. I didn't know there was one straight behind me.
How many trees we got in the yard?
And just because you were going, no, doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm fine,
Fortunately,
honey.
I was
I got
not
it.
behind the.
I got it. Okay.
You see this sign right
This
here?
is awesome.
Hopefully, you can read this also.
This is why he doesn't work on lawns.
I am not the lawn doctor, okay?
I fought the lawn and the lawn won.
And
Okay?
I'm not kidding. This is a very good sign for me. I got a bunch of questions about lawns
Yeah,
this
his
week.
advice is mow high. That's about
Mow
all you're
high,
going to get
mow
out.
high. Okay, I'm
Mow
done.
high, we're
I'll go
done.
home now. I
Very nice.
refer them all to the extension office,
There you
and
go.
and I will tell them what my opinion is, but it is by no means advice that you should take right in stone. Okay, what else we got going on
Okay,
with these trees?
back to the wrong
in a few minutes,
tree.
we're going to let you see a series of photographs.
Yes, to let us
cover
know
this.
when
Yep.
you want to get to those pictures because
Let us know?
You
Yeah.
let all of us know.
We're going to run out of here
All
and
right.
do his job? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
maybe. Okay. You said wrong tree for the wrong location, and we kind of touched on
That's
that.
the
One of
big
the
one.
most common mistakes people
You got to
make.
research. You got to find out. Okay, how big does the head of this tree get?
Mm-hmm.
How big does the root structure get? How big does the trunk get? Because there are trees being planted in downtown type spaces with grates around them and everything, and they're going to get so large you're just going to bust the grates. Not necessarily in Connersville, although it could be, but and because you just got to do a little research. How big does this top get? Because the top is going to grow and grow and grow, and you do not want to prune a tree. You should never have to prune a tree if you have done a good job of selecting the tree. Now, if you moved into an environment where there already was a tree, you may have to do some pruning. But don't always think that just because you have a tree in your yard, you have to prune it. That's not the case unless it's a Bradford pear, and then you got to thin instead of prune, and we'll get to that.
Now you also have to plan to care for this tree once you put it in.
Yes,
There is
I touched on
watering,
that.
right? And of course watering. Let's talk about some of these really good ideas I've seen in certain spaces where they've put in new trees and they need to provide them with water, and they're not going to run a hose out to all these trees. Let's talk about that.
There's a bunch of new systems out there. There's
Really
the
cool.
donut that goes around the tree, and it has a thing that you take off. You put the hose in, you fill it up with water over a period of 4 or 5 days or a week. It gradually releases that. We're going to run the photos. It's
Are you ready?
7:28. Yep, we're going to run these photos, and we're going to pause occasionally.
Because this
as we
will
go
answer
through.
a lot of these questions. Okay.
This is a beautiful tree, a whole cluster of gorgeous trees. They got plenty of room to grow. There's nothing around them. I'd like to see a mow ring around there. Look at these trees. Look at how they complement this lane and
That is
the
beautiful.
and the azaleas and rhododendrons beside
Ooh.
that. This is fabulous. This is why we have trees. There's a house back in there somewhere, but nobody really cares. Look at the gorgeousness now. That's
my.
why people plant Bradford pears. And within, you get a first ice storm. Pause on this one a minute, if you would, Justin. This is a weeping willow. Fantastic tree if it's
Love
sitting
a
right
willow.
by a pond
Aha.
or a lake, but never, ever anywhere near your well, your septic system, your house, your neighbor's house, your neighbor's septic, any children that it can reach out and grab, none of that stuff. But if it's by a pond, that's a fabulous place for it. Okay, go ahead.
All right, what do we got next? Let's see.
This
okay.
is a dwarf red leaf Jap maple. Look at that. It's going to fit in that spot just beautifully. It's
won't
not gonna
overgrow
outgrow.
that.
Nope.
Okay.
Gorgeous. Look at how the trees complement
They
that
do.
house. It just does a nice job. It's an old farmhouse. Now you can
Oh.
see here, pause there just a moment. You can see here where they tried to do a little bit of a mow ring there, but the tree was obviously hit by a lawnmower or my wife backing up before she had glasses on, I don't know. But no, it's the tree's still standing, so probably it wasn't her. But you can't blame the lawnmower people always either, because
Well, they're
they
trying
have
to go around and they're trying to get close, or
Well,
they're
they
going
gotta
to
do the
complain
job
about the
fast,
grass. So that mulch ring there should be a bigger ring with mulch to where a lawnmower could easily drive the circle without hitting the tree and be able to cut the grass
And there
right
should
up to
be
the
something
edge, right?
under the mulch that is a permanent weed barrier, not a piece of plastic. It's going to blow off in the wind when somebody forgets to put mulch on it. We have another caller, so we're going to pause
Let's do
right
that.
there, and we'll
Okay.
jump back to that. And you're on the air with Mr. and Mrs. Garden Doctor. How can we help
Hello.
you?
Hi.
Hello.
We've got a shrub, just evergreen, that's turning brown. And do you put muracid on that, or what do you do for it?
Well, if an evergreen is turning brown now, it's already survived the drought of last year, the drought 2 years ago. Or is this a new plant?
It's probably 2 years old.
2 years old. Okay, so it survived last year's drought, and then it survived the drought that we just experienced, which was almost 41 days long with almost no rain. So I would quicker say that it is reacting to this past drought, the one that just occurred. Now, if it has gone to the point of brown is not a
Like
good color.
needles coming off, death kind of brown?
Well,
No.
Yeah,
there are
those
two
aren't
things that
coming
cause.
off.
I'm sorry?
The needles aren't coming off.
Okay. There are two things that cause brown, and one is a blight, a disease that can be horrendous. It looks like it turns brownish red, and then the whole shrub can give up to that. There's another infection called apple cedar rust. If you've got any apples close to a cedar, then you can get a cross disease problem there. But I really think that if it's a new shrub, 2 years old, and it's just now turning brown, that it's probably from lack of water. Now, Muracid, yes, Miracle Grow, Muracid, they will help the plant grow, but they won't make it recover from damage due to drought. And this is not the time of the year to fertilize. You want to wait to fertilize when you're not stimulating the plant to grow as it's going to go to sleep.
Oh, okay.
Let it go to sleep first. Water it good. Water is, even though we've had all
I
this
was just
rain.
going to ask if it would do any good to do some heavy waterings at this point.
I don't know as it will, but it will not do any harm.
Okay.
A plant should be watered for about 3 years after it's been installed. Now, each time we space it out a little bit more, but you have to realize that it takes 5 years for that plant to reestablish a root structure that is normal and natural, for it to maintain itself. So for it to reach down 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 feet into the ground and out into the ground so that it can get little pockets of moisture here and there, that takes about 5 to 7 years.
So we've got to nurse it along by watering it for a few years till
Right.
it can do that.
We can make a mistake by giving it too much care, and then it doesn't grow the roots it needs, but we can also make a mistake by not giving it any attention, and it
So
just
should
can't
he just
survive.
kind of hold off on any fertilizing?
I would water. I
Really
would hold
water.
off on the water it good and heavy. Even though we just had the rain, go ahead and give it a good drink. Water it again in 5 to 7 days. Give it another good drink. When everything goes to sleep, which is normally right around Christmas time in Indiana, it's okay to put a fertilizer in there. Anytime from, let's say, the second week of December all the way through until March, April, anywhere in there, you can give them a shot of fertilizer, because it'll just work its way into the ground and become available to the plant in the spring.
Okay.
So you're not stimulating growth at the wrong time of the year.
Okay.
But the brown part is difficult. But all trees, all plants, all shrubs require watering in July and August if they are less than 5 years old.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your call.
Right.
We appreciate it.
Good
We'd
luck.
give you a
Thank
piece of pie if we could, but
I'll cut you a piece.
No, that's okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
It might look pretty. I didn't say it was edible. We'll see.
Next photograph in there, if you
All
would,
right,
please.
let's go.
Boy, we're
Yeah,
working
there
them
we
a little
go.
bit.
We
Yep.
really beat up that tree.
Yep.
Okay.
Now this one has been hit with a lawnmower there, and they've marked it with a red. You can't really see, but you can see that the grass goes right up against it. And of course they have to weed eat, so
Yep.
there you go.
All right. What do we have next? Oh,
This
that's
tree,
beautiful.
you can see the ice is still on the rest of it. But the problem with this tree is if you were to pull that all back together, the crown is rotten. The crown is soft because it grew such a big top with a soft center. And that's the weakness of that plant. If it had been cross-braced with cables, that could have possibly been avoided completely.
Wonderful.
You can see that split in the tree right there. And what's required is that you go up, about 3/4 of the way in that tree and bolt the two sides together.
Yep, I've seen that where they're actually cabled and bolted with eye bolts and lag bolts and connected.
And you can see right by that hand there, you can see right on through the tree.
Yeah.
It's actually
Sure
split
can.
all the way through. Now, this is a good photograph of a Bradford pear. In the spring of the year when they're heavy with blossom, they split right apart like
Wow.
that. Again, across
That could have been cabled.
cabling and thinning
But you have
them out.
to recognize that need for that before you can prevent it, obviously.
You've got to, definitely. There's a rubbing branch here. When you're looking at your tree, this in nature would just fall off. Cut the darn thing off. Don't let it rub because it's going to make the other branch weak. You want to avoid that situation.
cut the weaker
Get rid of the
one,
dead ones. Get rid of the rubbing ones. Cut them right off close.
All right.
This
that's
obviously wasn't thought out very well.
Not very well at all.
So, you can see the obvious problem there. Next one.
Here's your sign. Oh, those
This
are
is
those
the solution.
material.
Tree ring. It is rubber that has been reformed.
I think it's recycled
rubber.
materials, yeah.
And
It looks like mulch.
The bigger and bigger rings, you can cut the circle out of the middle, and you can throw mulch over the top of it if you want
Yep,
to change
sure
the
could.
color of it. And it also comes in different colors.
And they're cheap.
Moving along.
There you
And
go.
there's a different color. It shows
That's
how it lifts
application.
up, lays right at the grass level. Now this is acceptable to a degree, but I do not like mounding the mulch. I do not like that at all. But right here, the mulch has been pulled far enough back away from the trunk so that it doesn't cause a crown rot, a weakness at the trunk.
But it's also created a well to hold water when it does get rain or get watered, correct?
Yes,
For like a new tree?
and it protects it so that nobody will run
Okay.
up against it. Okay, all of that is good, but if that's left on there, the root structure will actually grow up into it.
Oh.
And you don't want that. So
No.
that's good for about 2 or 3 years. This is the
More
different
rings,
colors that are
okay.
available in those rings.
Yep, I've seen those.
Now, you can put something as simple as an old
Yeah,
trash
right.
bag.
Look at
this
this. Somebody
right here.
homemade thing.
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
we ought to have up and down the downtown
Now, how is that
Connersville.
leaking?
Just stick some bags out there. Huh?
How's the water coming
You just
out?
poke a few holes in
Oh,
the
is
bottom.
that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
The problem with this is if it doesn't, if all the water doesn't drain out, then you got a mosquito haven.
Oh,
okay?
yeah.
So that's why they have the other one sealed
Okay.
up. But look at that, isn't that great?
Oh, there
Now,
you go.
Yeah, this is one.
Commercially.
There's a little advertisement there for Washington D.C. But this is very simple. One of the things they're doing here is they're filling those bags up with the funnels, but you can also use the 5-gallon buckets by just poking holes in the bottom of them, fill them up with water, and put them on either side of the tree.
Oh,
and
that's attractive.
they do. What the heck, trash cans and 5-gallon buckets. There's
you
the
go.
donut. That looks like something somebody ought to have after they had hemorrhoid surgery. But anyway, there's downtown.
There you go.
Doesn't that?
I actually saw that at VA.
They don't look
The
that
VA
bad.
hospital.
Hold on this one a little bit, Justin, if you would, please. When you buy a tree, if you buy a very young tree, or plant a very young tree, it should be staked. You should not put a tree in the ground without a stake.
Well, it doesn't have the root structure, as you just said, to hold itself up.
And its top is very
And all it
precarious.
needs is a wind or something.
Or some kid coming along grabbing a hold of it. If
Or
you
me
put one
backing
stake,
up.
There you go. One stake beside it, and I like to use very colorful, loud stakes, fluorescent orange, whatever, so people can see it. And you loop around it so that you're not strangling the
And
tree.
we use pieces of cut up garden hose for that, so as not to damage the tree
There
with
you
wire.
go.
Right?
And a nice big loop. And then the second one, if it's a little
I like
larger
that,
tree,
yeah.
you do 2 stakes. Now make sure you go outside the root ball with that 2 stake. This 3-stake business with a much larger tree,
See how far
I do
out
not
the-
like.
Oh, no?
Don't like that.
Those are
That-
trip hazard.
Oh my gosh, people will break their necks
It's
with
like,
that thing.
yeah, I see that.
In a yard, if you've got a big mow ring cut around that and the stakes are inside the mow ring, that's
I mean, if
okay.
you have to for a big tree, you have to. But
Well, what I prefer to do is use larger stakes and put the ties up higher. Have
I
three
see.
stakes, but straight up and down,
Uh-huh.
and so that people can see them and they're not going to back into them. Okay, go ahead.
all
Thank
right,
you.
looking good.
Now you can see the stakes go on either side, and then you got a loop that goes
and
around.
how they're not going through the root ball.
Right.
Okay. Awesome.
This is
Oh,
this
yeah.
is where you can't see the other birch, but and I disagree with how this was done. I didn't do this, but you really should leave space for that eyelet. You drill directly through the middle of the limb. You go to the other side. You put a nut and a washer on, and you allow for that tree to grow.
Yeah,
So-
that eye so close doesn't give it any growing
you
room.
got no room there. I would put at least a good 2 to
But
3
that's
inches.
cool because you
on
cable
this
the
side.
two forks together like that, and when
one
they get top
supports
heavy
the
and
other.
weak.
Actually,
okay.
I've done it with I put a ring in the middle and
And
bring
done
all
3.
forks coming
Okay.
into the ring, and
Cool.
one can support them all.
Who knew?
Next one. That's the
Yeah.
bolt at the other end, bolt and the washer. And on this end, it doesn't make any sense to leave excess because it's just going to pull through
Right.
anyway.
Gotcha.
And
Oh,
this is
check that
cross
out. That's
bracing.
cool.
That's not exactly how I would have done it.
No, but it's definitely doing the job.
It's quite
Goodness.
a good job. But there's another setup high. You see hold
on
on this
earth?
one a minute. This is impossible for that not to break.
at
That's a
that.
weak crown. Now, in some trees we have hybrid them, man has. We have made the tree attractive for us to look at, but we've made it very weak
Is that
for it
grafted?
to survive. No, that's just a whole. Somebody
Oh.
probably broke the top on that.
Oh, and it shoot
a
a
bunch,
bunch
of
of
brush
little
cluster
things.
came out,
Okay.
and that's what you get. Next
Aha.
picture, please.
Gotcha.
This is another pear
Oh.
tree that's split, and it could have been if it had been thinned out, not butchered, thin it out,
Right.
and put
Allow
a
for
cross cable in
airflow
there.
and all
Yep,
that.
no
Okay.
problem at all. There's
Ooh.
another one, same deal.
Same thing there. Okay.
Now
Oh.
this tree has uprooted. You can see the root structure going out away from that is not equal to the top. That's where the problem is. There are no roots been pulled out of the ground up around there anywhere. And apparently either this tree had been receiving its nutrients and its water rate in one particular location and hadn't had to reach out. In this case, it would have been advantageous to prune the tree. Most cases, I do not recommend pruning, but if you've got the wrong plant in the wrong place, then you
Then
do.
you have to.
This is an extremely decorative protection for a tree. Isn't that beautiful?
I guess.
And they come there's all different types.
I'm not sure about that.
This that's a pear that if you could
Look
see a
at-
little
wow.
closer, you could see where it rotted right off right at the
Right
ground.
off. Check
The
it
reason
out.
it did that, it was mounded with mulch for
Oh,
years.
right up
and it
against it.
Rotted
Yep.
right off.
Yep. There you go.
Next.
All right.
This is obviously a tree that is very well rooted.
Wow.
Very well balanced. Next tree.
Check
Another
it
one.
out.
This is it hasn't
And
tipped
talk
over.
about erosion. If that is underground, of course it holds the
There you
soil
go.
back.
Next.
Sure.
And that's a beautiful.
Isn't that pretty?
Isn't that nice scarlet maple? Next one. Sets out in the field all by itself. This is an example of the girdling root that I was talking about that goes around the tree, chokes the tree, strangles it. If I was caring for this particular tree, I would chop all of those roots and get them out of there because there's plenty of root structure down underneath. If you don't do it now, it's going to be a mess. But what happened, this was all mounded up with mulch.
And the roots grew up.
And they grew up and
Into
crossed
the
up
mulch,
and
I
made
see.
a mess.
Wow.
So we took that out. Here's another example of that. And this tree is doomed. It's
Doomed.
it's doomed. Look at the arrow laying there. Isn't that
I
cute?
see that.
Yeah.
Doomed.
Another one doomed.
Doomed. I like that word.
Next. Now, this is use of glue. This is winter damage. It split a young tree. You just put the glue in there. You pull the two sides back together. You run some rope around
And
it,
can
snug
that
it
live
up real
like
good.
that?
Oh, yeah. The glue.
Really?
The cambium layer is what's alive. The center of the tree is not alive. It just holds it together.
Okay.
It's just for
Awesome.
strength and durability. You can see where that's bolted. The two sides are bolted
Oh,
together.
yes, up top. I see
Again,
it.
that has to be bolted up higher to work
Uh-huh.
right, and I would fill that in. I do not agree with this type of a protection. Number one, hold a minute there, Justin. They've added stuff around the base of the tree, so you're going to suffocate the root structure of the tree. You're going to suffocate the crown of the tree, and it's still a pain in the neck to mow around.
Right,
that
you
thing.
still need a weed eater.
Yeah, so I
Okay.
don't see where they gained anything, but
Gotcha.
it's decorative. And if
Yeah,
they had put
no.
another barrier around it that was about 5 inches of a mow barrier, then that would have been good. Next one, please. Okay, this is mounded up, volcano in the center. Avoid this at all costs. Don't do this. That's foolish. It looks ridiculous, and there's nothing in nature that would ever cause that to be normal. Next.
That's all he has to say about
the vines.
that.
Yeah, that's right. The vines going up a tree. That is
That
death.
ivy. Oh,
climbing up a tree. You do not want anything climbing and attaching itself
it's a
to your
parasite,
house
right?
or to your tree. Yeah, it's sucking the life right out of it. And if you've got a mass of it up that tree, it's sucking a lot more than you realize out of that tree. Alrighty, men. There are so much more to cover on trees. It just goes on and on and on. But hopefully, if you pick the right plant, put it in the right place, water it in very good, stake it, put a nice healthy mow ring around it, protect the lawnmower too, because the lawnmower and the weed eater guy can, has got a duck underneath all this stuff. So bear in mind what they've got to do. So put a good healthy ring. Put your trees in clusters and groups of in a planting zone, and put underplanting underneath it so that the mowing is not as hazardous to the trees, to the people, to the machines, so forth. Yes.
Well, I want to stop and toot your horn for just a minute here.
Okay. Horn tooting.
This here is actually an award that he won at the National Veterans Creative Arts Council Festival. And he submitted
Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yeah, he is a national
Reno.
winner. Well, yeah, we're not going to be able to make it to their
Yep.
reception out there and everything. But he did win for his patriotic poem that he submitted nationwide, and he is the winner of that. Got a medal, so I'm very proud of you, honey.
Well, thank you very much.
He,
I'm going to make my son read it downtown on a little post, stand up there. And
I'm
read
sure
it.
most people who know you wrote with a notebook most times.
I
and
used to.
Sometimes it's love letters. Used to be.
Used to be
love letters
some
all
gal
over the
down in
place.
Florida. I got her now, so enough of that.
Now, you talked a lot about seeds. Everything is exploding right now with seeds.
Yes. Pollen is driving everybody crazy.
Allergies right now.
But it's not just driving you crazy. All of these seeds that are airborne right now are landing in your mulch beds, in your lawn, in your garden space. And it behooves you to prevent them from germinating, and do it now. Don't wait till next spring because it's too late. Mother Nature releases seeds, some seeds in the fall, some in the winter, and some in the spring, so that they can grow winter over, germinate, and then be ready to grow in the spring. Okay, so put down the weed preventer now. Put it over your garden weed preventers, mulch bed weed preventers. In your lawn area, though, I don't do too much weed and feed late in the season. If you have a real bad situation with your lawn right now, get the advice of the extension office down there on when the latest seed date is and what seed to use and everything. There are some really fine new seeds out. I love the fescues. I plant and recommend the tall fescues and very little bluegrass. But you need to put this weed preventer down now, and then I also do it again in the spring. I put
It really, once you start using it, a couple times
it's
a year,
amazing how much it'll
little by
reduce.
little, every year, the beds become almost weed-free.
Unless
A
you
couple of
skip.
beds.
Unless
Yep,
you-
if you miss it. But we do have some beds that are virtually weed-free as long as we apply the weed preventer.
And if you believe the weed preventer didn't work, it was because of your timing. The weeds had already germinated. You put the stuff on. The weed preventer worked, unless you got in there and broke the ground messing around in there or something.
Or if wind has blown it away, actually, or if you got too much rain or no rain.
I know we had
to
100
wet it in.
more questions on. She just turned like 4 pages here.
I'm
But
kind
we
of
gotta
jumping
skip
around
over. Okay,
because
then
I wanted
we'll
to
try
make
to get
sure
back.
and say hello to Evelyn Wilson, a dear
Oh,
friend
yeah.
of ours who.
Evelyn, I hope you're watching up
I
there.
hope she is
She's
watching.
recovering from
She's at
broken
Heritage
hip.
House. Oh, I know.
Is it Heritage
I
House?
believe it's Heritage House. Yes.
I've got one in about every one of the.
Well, hi, Evelyn. We just want to say hello and hope you get to
hello.
feeling better and get home real soon.
John Bates, he just got some fantastic news.
Oh, good.
His test
Did he?
results come back.
Wonderful.
And we're getting ready to go out there to visit him. And I don't know. Roberta Welch is coming back into town.
Oh,
She'll be
great.
back next week.
Well, you
so-
better wish your son and
Oh,
his
yeah.
wife a happy anniversary to
anniversary.
Christopher and Jen,
Christopher
our
and
son
Jennifer
and
Matthews
daughter.
been married 7 years, I think.
Hey, that's pretty good. You know,
That's pretty
they're
good in this
doing
day
all
and
right.
age. Yeah.
It is.
They
It's
haven't
tough.
seen each other for about 6. But, no.
Is that how they do it? Well, now that I have you where you can't get away, I want to ask you a couple of questions about our own garden. Now, I kind of let our cucumbers dry up.
Yep.
I didn't water when I should have. Got out there, our vines are pretty much done. But I was fortunate enough to find a few green bell peppers out there, or mangoes, as I was told they're called around these parts. Okay, found some green peppers, and I do have tomatoes. The thing that's happening though is I'll get a tomato, I'm watching it, it's just about before I pick it, and then it cracks.
Yeah, that's
What is going on?
the lack of uniformity in the watering is normally the problem there. Mulching will help sometimes. We were out of town for a while. We had to go take care of Mother. And the watering needs to be uniform. Tomatoes really like it to be a uniform
And I know
watering.
for a week there it got real hot. I didn't get out to water, and then
The heat
we
doesn't bother 'em. They
turned the
prefer the
sprinklers
heat.
on and left them on all night,
Right.
and then
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's
So,
it's an
inconsistent.
irregularity, inconsistency in the water. They want the water. They want to dry out. They like it hot. They don't like shade. You can't grow them around a walnut tree. But yeah, we had the same thing with the berries. The berries came out and they dried up this spring.
Yeah,
Remember, because we had the drought came just about the time as the berries.
Well, I'm still getting raspberries.
Oh,
We
yeah,
have
we
those
still pick-
Everbloomers, and I made him a raspberry pie. He says, I don't make pie very often. Well, let me tell you, I picked raspberries, so I couldn't pick
How many
any more
pies you made?
raspberries.
We've been married, what, 80 years? I don't know.
Gosh, I've made a lot of pies just
Lot
this
of pies,
year.
lot of pies.
I've discovered I can make a pretty pie.
I don't know what she's doing with the
know-
pies,
I don't
but
know if
she's
it's any
making a
good
lot
to
of pies.
eat, but it sure
Oh,
is a
it's
pretty
beautiful
pie.
pie. Look at that.
Yeah, and it
Isn't that
says
gorgeous?
TV3 right on the front. It's still warm. Let
Yes,
me tell
it
you
is.
what,
It just
it
came out of the
literally
oven. Yeah.
is still warm.
Yeah, I didn't get any supper, but TV3 got a pie here.
Okay.
All right. What else you got going on there?
Well, I don't really know.
We had billions and billions of questions about trees, though, and I remind everybody again: if you see me on the street and there's something that I didn't get to, that you took all the time and trouble to email me or write me a letter or leave a note or something like that. If I didn't answer it and you see me, go ahead and stop me and ask me the question. I will be more than happy to answer it. I apologize in advance. This happens every show. This one much more than normal, though. There was some considerable stack of comments and questions. A couple of them were about my hair too. You know.
I know. Look at you now. Wow.
yeah,
well, I'll tell
well.
you what. I think shaving
Okay,
off that
caller
beard
coming in. We got to get
took
to them
about
real
20
quick. and
years
then-
off of your life.
Then we
there.
got to.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead. You're on the air with Mr. and Mrs. Garden Doctor.
Hello.
Hey, I have a question about Japanese maples.
Okay.
I have two of them that's probably 50 years old,
Uh-huh.
and I was just wondering what I can do to take care of them. They've had a couple hard summers.
Well, they need the water in the summer, but they are a beautiful plant for this environment. You
Yes.
want to thin them out, let the air circulate through them. They do prefer to be fertilized. They want to be fertilized in the spring and again in the summer. We use a Miracle Grow. It does a fine job. But thinning them out is a good idea. So take out about a third of the branches if you can eventually, so that they get good air circulation in there. And then they do like to be heavily watered about every 10 days during late July and through August. And that's about all you have to do to them.
All right, that'll work. I
Lots
just
of water.
wondered. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Appreciate the call. But red leaf Japanese maple is one of my favorite. There's so many varieties. I think there's over 100 that we want to try to use. How much time we got up there?
All right. Well,
Are you down to the last question?
I think we are just about.
Okay. All right. Well,
What
it's
else
all
you got? Some
it's all over to
diseases?
you, is it? There's a lot of dead branches and if you see a burl on the side of your tree, don't panic. It's not anything that's going to kill your tree. Honey, you want to take it from here? And
Okay.
we're going to roll at the end.
Yes. Unfortunately, I guess that I have to start this part. Our little mascot of our show, Tiny Dog, our beloved friend and dog for many years, passed away last Monday. So we just are at a loss without her. And Barb Eshelman, a friend of mine, is the one who brought Tiny into our life. And she was a stray, and we took her in. And she has given us 10 years of being the most fabulous dog in the world. I mean, the pictures that you see on the intro of her, that really was her personality. She was an awesome dog. And we're just at a loss without her. It's very sad. We'll miss her very, very much. And a lot of our family and everybody, our friends, anybody who ever knew this dog loved this dog. I know the first time she ever came stomping in the studio, John was about freaking out. There's a dog in the studio. I said, don't worry, she's going to be fine. And for the first several shows, how many times did she sit square in my lap? You know, she just sat here through the whole show.
Totally content, totally
Yeah,
quiet.
totally
no
content.
problem at all. And when we would come up in the elevator, she was so used to coming here, she would come in and she would not turn around like most dogs would. She would come in and she would face this way. She knew that one door closed behind her and another one opened in front of her.
Most
That's just
people
the way it
didn't
was.
know that themselves. They'd come up and still be facing
And
the
she
same
knew
way.
exactly which set to come to when she come inside.
But
And
she
did,
was
she
awesome.
did that way.
She has flown with us, gone fishing with us, swimming with us, traveled cross country, I don't know how many times with us. Everything we have done, I have done with that dog by my side or at my heel or in my bed. That's been really hard. You know, you'd think you would get be happy not to have dog feet in your side.
We just
but
hope that everybody
we really
can at
miss
least
it.
have a dog similar to that.
If anybody, if you could wish that on somebody to be blessed with that, a relationship with a dog like that, at least sometime at one point in your life, you have been truly blessed. So
I want to thank everybody for watching.
Yes.
We're going to end with
we put
Tiny.
together a little memorial collage, some pictures of our girl. They were kind enough to run for us, to give us a kind of way to help us dealing with it and to share with you, the little girl who started it all with us, share some of that with you guys. And
Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you
Thank
again
you.
on the next Garden Doctor Show.
The garden doctor.